I'm Ryan from ExtremeTerrain.com, and in this video I'm going to tell you all about my picks for a catback exhaust system fitting your 2007 and up JK. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out more videos like this, as well as more in-depth videos on each of the individual products that we're going to talk about today. So a catback exhaust system is going to be for those of you that are looking to get more exhaust volume as well as a lower exhaust note out of your Jeep. Now you can always go with an axle back system, but if you need to replace more of your system because it's rotted, rusted, dented, whatever the case may be, or in the case of some of these systems, they're going to eliminate your factory style muffler and replace it with a bullet style muffler further up the exhaust system, then of course you're gonna have to go with a full catback. So if you're looking at the difference between axleback and catback, axleback is going to pretty much leave the system as a factory system, just changing out the muffler, still giving you a little bit more attitude if you go with a dual exit or a black system, and definitely giving you a little bit more volume and a lower exhaust note. But if you're looking for even more, then you're gonna wanna go with a catback system. The systems we're going to talk about today, for the most part, are going to fit on the 2007 all the way up to the latest model year JK. So they are going to span the 3.6 liter and the 3.8 liter engine. Some of them are going to be engine specific, so depending on the system that you choose, make sure you pick the right one for your Jeep. In that same vein, most if not all of these systems are going to work with both the 2-door and the 4-door JK. Some of them will have an extension pipe that you'll use on the 4-door and not use on the 2-door. Others will require you to do a little bit of cutting if you're installing the system on a 2-door versus a 4-door. But for the most part, all of these systems will work on both Jeeps, just a little bit of a different install. Speaking of the install, most of these are going to be more or less a completely bolt-on system. I just said you might have to do a little bit of cutting if you're installing this on a 2-door, but if your system doesn't require cutting, there is going to be no other serious modification to the Jeep. You're not cutting anything up, you're not welding anything on. These are going to be bolt-on systems, again, with that one little asterisk of possibly a little trimming if you're installing a system on your 2-door, but the product page will be very clear on exactly what's necessary to get your installation done. Now, I do want to say that if we're talking about muscle cars, if we're talking about trucks even sometimes, an exhaust system would be more of a performance part. You would be opening up the exhaust, letting the engine breathe a little bit easier, which will give you a little bit more power. And the same can be said for a catback system on a Jeep. However, any power gains that you're going to see are most likely at the top of the RPM range, where we don't spend a lot of time in our Jeeps. Of course, these things aren't sports cars. So I wouldn't expect to get a huge gain in power, maybe a little bit of a gain in MPG, but not a huge gain in power that you're really gonna feel when you're driving down the road by installing a catback exhaust system like the ones we're gonna talk about today. What you are going to gain is a different look to your Jeep. You're going to gain some additional clearance if you are running one of those high clearance rock crawler style systems that we're going to talk about, and of course you're going to get that lower exhaust note and that louder exhaust as well. So the four systems that I want to talk about today are the Magnaflow Performance Series dual exit catback system. That's going to be a very high quality system that is very much a factory-like system. For your JK, it's going to include all of the same components that the factory systems includes, just higher quality and of course giving you a little bit more volume. Then we're going to talk about the Flowmaster American Thunder series. That's going to be a little bit less piping. It's going to eliminate that factory muffler location for those of you that need a little bit more clearance off-road, but is still going to dump after that rear axle. Then we're going to talk about the Pipes high clearance exhaust system. That's going to dump in that same location right after the rear axle. Again, still eliminating that factory muffler location for those of you that are doing some off-roading. And that system is going to be a little bit less expensive than the others, but it's still made of a very high quality material, so I think it's definitely worth speaking about. And the last system we're going to talk about is the Magnaflow OffRoad Pro Series catback system. That's going to be the shortest system that we're going to talk about today. That actually dumps in front of the rear axle. It's going to be the most simplistic, the shortest system, the least amount of piping to get bent up on the trail, and because it is so short, it's also going to give you one of the more aggressive sounds of all four of the systems we're going to talk about. So let's get into it. The first system I want to talk about is this Magnaflow Performance Series dual exit catback exhaust system. This is going to be the most expensive system that we're going to talk about today, and the reason for that is, one, it's high quality material, 2, it's a high build quality, but 3, this is the system that is most similar to a factory system, at least on a 2012 and up JK, in the fact that it has both a resonator and a muffler in the factory location. So when you add all of those things together, this is going to be a pricier system than the other ones that we're going to talk about. Those are going to be a little more stripped down and a few less pieces included. But if you are somebody who doesn't have the need for a really high clearance system, maybe you do a little bit of off-roading, but you're not doing anything real serious on the rocks, maybe your Jeep stays on the street, so you're okay having this additional piping, having still the resonator and the muffler in place, but you want something that is going to be a very high quality 409 stainless material, so you're going to get a little bit of surface rust on it, but it's not going to rot out like aluminized steel. You're also going to get more flow through this system, a lot more exhaust volume, also a lower exhaust note that we were talking about before. This system is the polished version of this system. It's also available in black, but as you can see here, it is the dual exit system, so you're going to have 2 tips out the back, definitely giving the Jeep a little bit more attitude than it had with that factory setup. This is one of those systems that will fit on the 4-door and the 2-door. This is the extension pipe. You just don't use this piece when you're installing this system on a 2-door. Of course, it would go in for the 4-door to give you the additional length that you need, so no cutting necessary with this system. Overall, you know from Magnaflow you're getting something that is very high quality from a build quality perspective, and you can really tell that when you take this out of the box and you look at the welds and how well manufactured this whole system is. You combine that with the fact that it's a high quality 409 stainless and that it is going to give you a really rich and well-rounded sound. I think this is definitely a win if you want a factory style system that's just going to be a little deeper and a little bit louder and also very high quality. The next system is the Flowmaster American Thunder system, and this is going to be different from the Magnaflow we just talked about in pretty much every way. So this is not going to include a factory muffler in the factory location. If you have a newer JK that has a resonator, this is not going to include a resonator that goes in the factory location either. What this system is going to include is the piping to get you from your catalytic converter through this bullet style muffler that sits pretty much where that factory resonator would have sat, and then over the axle and out to the rear of the Jeep. So this is still going to be a rear exit behind the rear axle, but you're eliminating a lot of the other stuff that's in the way that can usually get banged up on the trail. Again, not having a big, bulky muffler right by the rear bumper is definitely going to be a good thing if you're crawling on the rocks. Because this system is using a smaller bullet style muffler and again eliminating a resonator, if your Jeep had one from the factory, this is definitely going to be a louder sound than you would get from that Magnaflow and a little bit less refined as well. I'm not talking about drone, I'm not talking about anything crazy loud, but it is going to have some more volume than the other system that we talked about. Now, again, you're getting something from Flowmaster, which is a really well-known name. They build a very high-quality product. This is also going to be 409 stainless. So again, maybe a little bit of surface rust on this, a little bit of surface oxidation, but you're not going to end up with a complete rot through like you would with some of the much less expensive aluminized steel systems. This is going to be a little bit less expensive than the Magnaflow that we talked about. Again, that had a lot more components, a lot more expensive. This one is going to still be a little on the pricier side because you're paying for the quality of the materials and also the build quality, but I do think you're getting a lot for your money. The next system is the Pipes High Clearance Exhaust System, and this is going to be pretty similar to the American Thunder that we just talked about with a few differences. So this is going to be the same in the fact that it eliminates that factory muffler, eliminates the factory resonator if you have one, and replaces that whole muffling system with a bullet style muffler that resides where that factory resonator would, right up next to the frame, opening up that area in the back of the Jeep so you don't have that big can to crush. This is still going to exit over the axle at the rear of the vehicle, but that's where one of the differences are. This doesn't have a fancy polished tip on it like the Flowmaster does. This is going to just be the regular 2.5-inch tubing bent down at the end with a baloney cut on it. Now, that tubing on this system is a 304 stainless, which is the higher grade stainless that you're going to find in exhaust systems for your vehicle. So this is going to be even more resistant to any sort of surface rust, especially if you live where we do up here in the Rust Belt. A system like this is not going to rot away on you. It's going to have the most resistance against any sort of oxidation and corrosion. So if that's what you're looking for, this is going to be an excellent system for you. This one, just like that Flowmaster American Thunder, is going to require a little bit of cutting if you're installing this on a two-door, but pretty standard, pretty straightforward, not a big deal for most of you guys to do on your own. And of course, the muffler itself is going to be a flow-through design. It's going to be a little bit more raspy, a little bit louder than that Flowmaster that we had just talked about, maybe a little bit less refined. Overall, I think this is a very well-built system. It's a very simple system, but it's very high-quality materials. The build quality is there. In fact, there's really not much here that you could mess up from a build quality perspective. You have a couple of welds on the actual pipe for the hangers itself, and then of course in the muffler, but there isn't a lot that you can really mess up with a system that's as simple as this one is. And you're getting very high quality materials, all for about $200 less than that Flowmaster system that we had just talked about. So if you're okay not having a polished tip, I think this is going to be an excellent choice for those of you that are on a little bit of a budget, but still want a very high quality of build material in your exhaust system. This system is the Magnaflow OffRoad Pro catback exhaust system. This is the shortest system that we're going to talk about today, and thereby is going to be one of the loudest systems that we're going to talk about. Where the last two systems did eliminate that factory muffler, replacing the factory resonator location with a bullet style muffler, which this system does as well. Those systems still dump after the axle at the back of the Jeep. This system is going to dump in front of the axle, so you have less pipe. Less piping is going to have less of an opportunity to mellow out that sound, so you're definitely going to get a louder, more raspy, more raw sound out of this system. Now, the benefit to this system is that you have even less pipe underneath the Jeep to bang and bend up when you're off-road. So if you're doing some really serious wheeling and you really want to have the least amount of piping to get damaged, this is going to be the way to do that. So the most sound, the lower, raspiest, most raw exhaust note, the least amount of piping that you can bend, and still having a very high quality, well-built system from a company like Magnaflow. This is still a stainless steel. We're not stepping back into aluminized. You are getting a lot out of this system. Now, because this is Magnaflow, because you're getting high quality of build, high quality of materials, this is going to be more expensive than the pipe system that we talked about, even though it is less material and a slightly lower grade stainless. So it really comes down to what you're looking for. What's most important to you? Is it sound? Is it quality? Is it how short the system is and how much that leaves you to damage on the trail? For my money, if I do a lot of wheeling, if I really want the most aggressive, loud, lowest raspy exhaust note that I can find, this is going to be an excellent option. So those are my picks for catback exhaust systems fitting your 07 and up JK. Today we talked about the Magnaflow Performance Series dual exit catback system, the Flowmaster American Thunder system, that pipes high clearance system, and finally another Magnaflow system, the OffRoad Pro system by Magnaflow. Again, these are just my picks for 4 systems. There are a lot of exhaust systems out there for your JK. So make sure you comment below. Let me know what you think about my picks, which system you're running on your Jeep and how you like it, or which one you want to install on your Jeep, because we all have those parts that we're looking forward to getting for our Wranglers. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you're going to be able to check out more comparison videos like this, and you'll also be able to find the full review videos for all the parts we talked about today.